was Father's Day 2013, and I was the lifeguard at Raging Waters in San Dimas, and it's a water park with a bunch of slide attractions. And there's also a big wave pool on one side of the park. So I was at the bottom of Bermuda Triangle, which is just a ride. I was at the bottom just scanning water, making sure everyone came down properly and exit the pool safely. And every 10 to 15 minutes I have to do a bottom check, and so and the wave pool is right on my left, and I seen this guy in the wave pool, this big guy. He was like sprawled out on a little donut tube, and I was just like scanning my water, and I was like, okay, you know, it's Father's Day, he's chilling. So, but I noticed, you know, time went by and he was still there, and I don't know what happened, but I was doing a bottom check, and I heard some little boy screaming at the top of his lungs, and he was right next to that man. So my heart's like beating, you know, I'm like, oh shoot, like something's, you know, wrong with this guy. And so immediately I stopped dispatch at the top of the ride, and I blew 3 whistles, which means there's an emergency, pretty much man down. So I noticed I was the only person next to the safety chest, and so I have all this adrenaline, you know, my heart's racing, so like I'm running, I even jump over the rail to get to the safety chest, and I go into the safety chest and get the AED bag, I get all the safety supplies, and I get a gurney, and I run as fast as I can to the wave pool. And thank God there's like 5 other lifeguards there already, you know, pushing everyone back. Of course, everyone's on Snapchat already and, you know, Instagram Live or whatever. And so immediately I got the gurney down, and we got this man onto the gurney and pushed him ashore of the wave pool. And so immediately I went down, I kneeled down next to his head, I opened up his airways, and I was checking for a pulse, and there was nothing. And he was starting to turn purple at this time. And so, you know, we all, it was a big man. He was well over like 260 pounds. So good thing, you know, there was other lifeguards there to help me do CPR. So we went right into chest compressions, and everyone was taking turns. And I remember in the corner of my eye seeing like this family of like 6 people, and they're like running towards me, you know, screaming at the top of their lungs. We can hear it echoing throughout the park. And I'm like, shit, this is the family, you know, I have to go talk to them. So like I'm running, and I'm just like, you guys stop. Sorry, I know it's a really emotional situation, but your husband, he went unconscious in the wave pool, and we're doing our best to bring him back. So they're like, okay. I was just like, I need you guys to cooperate us and just stand to the side while we help him. And so they're like crying on the side, and it's really sad. And so I go back down, and still there's no pulse. So, you know, I take out the AED and cut open his shirt with the scissors, and we put the patches on him. And so, you know, the AED, we put it on, everyone stood back, we let it do its job, and it shocked them. And I went down and went to go look for that pulse again, and there was still no pulse. And so I'm like, shoot. So we tried it one more time, we stood back, and it shocked him, and still, again, there was like silence after. And then I was like, shoot, you know, like what do we do? And then out of nowhere, we heard this loud gasp, like for air, and then I was just like, oh my gosh. And so he was on his back, and so we rolled him over onto his side so he could let whatever, you know, was blocking his airway, so he can just let everything out. And so he was really lost, of course, you know, anyone that, you know, wakes up back up after being unconscious, they're super out of it. So we sat him up, and we told him, you know, you went unconscious in the wave pool, your family is right here. They all came and was hugging him, and he was probably like, what the heck, like, you know, thought he was just waking up from his sleep. And so, and finally, you know, the paramedics arrived after, you know, 5 minutes. And so by the time they got there, thank God he was already up, and they told us that if he was gone for more than 30 more seconds, he could have been brain dead, or he could have died right there. So even though it's a very emotional and dramatic situation, you know, if you're confident in what you're doing, then, you know, you won't fail. So that's my story.